Just tell you what this means. The really key figure for me was the projected national share. And that was revealed by Laura on the BBC, and that turns out at 30%. What that means, which is it translates into a parliamentary seats, which means Nigel Farage will be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. This has been a deeply personal journey for me. I remember actually many years ago I was standing, I'd just actually flown back from holiday and I got a phone call from Nigel Farage, who I'd never met, and I was unpacking my suitcase and this voice said, "Hello David, it's Nigel Farage." I nearly fell over the balcony and I was like, "Oh, hi Nigel." And this is when he persuaded me to stand in the European elections, and of course we then stood, we won those, we became the largest party in the European Parliament, much to the horror of the main two traditional parties. And from there, of course, we have changed history. We continue to change history, and last night and this morning we have done it again. Throughout the evening, they kept wheeling in cabinet ministers, shadow cabinet ministers, and I started to hear the same messages being repeated by the Labour ministers. They kept talking about, obviously, what they'd been told, the lines they had been given to repeat ad nauseum. So I started playing Starmer Bingo. £22 billion hole, working people, plan for change, making difficult decisions. Keir Starmer is not a leader. He is a technocrat, he is boring, he is dull, and he is deeply out of touch with the British people. They are out of touch, they're out of time, they're out of ideas, they didn't really have any in the first place. And as I said to Jackie Smith, she kept saying, well, we've done things that help working people. And I said, are you living in some parallel universe to me? Because what they've done is they've decimated the high street. They've completely hurt people. They removed the winter fuel allowance from elderly people, which I think is downright disgraceful. They allowed elderly people to suffer in the cold. I had people phoning in to my show on Talk to say, elderly people saying, I cannot afford to put the heating on, and I'm sitting here in front of a one-bar fire. That is not a measure of a developed democracy. It is frankly unacceptable. And then when we look at the small businesses, no developed Western country has achieved success with the levels of energy that we have, the price of energy that we've had. No developed economy has flourished without cheap energy. And what we need to do is dramatically cut the cost of energy. And one other thing that the government has done is to increase employers' national insurance contributions. And I hear from loads of people, I had a small business. They're saying, I can't afford to employ anyone. These are working people. So Jackie Smith, you don't know what you are talking about. And Keir Starmer, you have cheese in your ears because you are not listening. One of the other things that keeps coming up, and it gave me great pleasure to do this, is they keep coming back to something that Nigel talked about, which I think is a welcome addition to the conversation about healthcare. It's something I feel really passionate about. I am a doctor by training, and we need to provide better healthcare. We spend 200 billion quid on the NHS. That's 11.7% of GDP. It's a lot of money. And when you look at our health outcomes, they are below the rest of Europe. Our cancer survivor rates are 15 years behind the rest of Europe. So it doesn't work. And they kept saying to me, well, Nigel Farage wants to privatise the NHS. And I said, he doesn't. And the trump card that I had was, I said, I've written the policy. I know we are not going to privatise the NHS. It remains free at the point of need, and whoever delivers it is irrelevant to the patient. I want you to be seen quickly, I want you to be seen effectively, and I want you to get great treatment. I spoke to a surgeon this week who is working for a private company contracted to the NHS. And I said to him, why are you working for a private company? And he said, I can do 4 times more operations in the time. It is well organised, it's well orchestrated, and for the patient, crucially, you are seen quickly and it remains free at the point of need. So that's the journey that we've been on. It's been an extraordinary 36 hours. I don't know which day it is at the moment. And I'm delighted with the result, as I know the rest of the Reform UK team is. We have come a great distance. We've come a long way since the foundation of the Brexit Party. I remember actually having a conversation with Richard and Nigel about trying to brand the Brexit Party into Reform UK. And we were struggling because people kept saying to us, we don't know who you are. They do now. We have also We've also professionalised the party, setting up branches. I know so many of you worked so hard, and thank you very much for that. And one man who's been responsible for that, professionalising the party, I'd like to introduce you to you now. Ladies and gentlemen, please will you welcome the chairman of Reform UK, Zia Youssef.
Good evening, Reform UK! We gather on a historic day for the United Kingdom. You know, before the campaign started, we had a view that if Reform, given all the momentum we had, could win a couple of hundred council seats, if we could perhaps take control of a council, that would be a great start to be able to deliver for constituents. Maybe even we could be in for a shot in one of the mayoral campaigns, and we might be able to push Labour very, very close in one of the safest seats they have in our land. As it turns out, we're in the midst of something truly spectacular. As we speak, Reform UK has won 659 council seats. We've taken control of 9 councils. There are 2 Reform UK mayors. And of course, I think there was a parliamentary by-election, which we won by a few votes in Runcorn and Helsby. So make no mistake, this is a pivotal moment in this country's history. I really mean that. We could not have done it without all of you here this evening, the people watching this at home. What's really clear is that a turquoise tidal wave is sweeping across the United Kingdom, and it is engulfing the entire country. So what does this mean? You know, cast your minds back to when Nigel, do you remember in June last year when Nigel held that press conference with Richard and said he was coming back to be leader of the party? There was a bit of a will he, won't he period, if you remember. I remember being quite depressed when it seemed like he wasn't going to come back. You know, he was going to go and do other things, but he rose to the occasion in the way only Nigel can. He returned to be our leader. He ran to be the Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, and I remember checking the betting odds on my phone at the time when he first announced, just after the press conference, and the betting markets priced Nigel winning his seat in Clacton-on-Sea at 32%. Well, as we speak this evening, that same betting market prices him being the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom at 38%. And that's happened in 10 and a half, 11 months. Feels like decades ago, doesn't it? But now we have an awesome responsibility. We carry on our shoulders the burden of the hopes and dreams of millions of people in this country. You know, I've had so many messages, and so many of speaking to other leaders in the Reform Party, we've had so many messages from people, quite emotional messages actually, about how overjoyed, how exhilarated they are, how relieved they are. That word came up a lot, relief. That there are so many people in this country who still believe that the United Kingdom can once again be a proud and prosperous and powerful country. And I know all of you believe that too. And that's what makes us different. You know, there's no shortage of people in this country who are understandably disillusioned and disheartened and dismayed about politicians and politics. You know, how many times did you hear the word Tory and the word betrayal next to each other? Pretty much every time, right? And having spent a lot of time in Runcorn and Helsby, knocking on doors and campaigning, I heard that word betrayal, an awful lot. And this time it wasn't coming from Tory voters. The Tories, there were none left. They're largely extinct. I was hearing it from people who voted Labour. In some cases, people who have voted Labour their entire lives. There was one particular lady who I still recall quite vividly the conversation. She said she'd recently become a pensioner. She'd voted Labour her entire life. She trusted Keir Starmer. And now she has to resort to borrowing money from her grandson because the winter fuel allowance had been taken from her. And this is where we are. We are the party that is offering a real alternative to those two old parties, not as a protest vote. You know, the easiest way to protest is to just not even vote, an option many people these days are taking. We are offering a vision for the United Kingdom, of a country that we can't wait to live in, a country which is wealthy, a country which is proud of its history, a country that looks forward to its future with great enthusiasm, a country which young people feel they belong to.
Absolutely.
And we're so fortunate to have leading us a man who, you know, I was an entrepreneur. I take great pride in my work ethic. Pretty much work 7 days a week. I love working. And I consider myself quite a high energy person. Since coming on board with Reform full time, I'll tell you this. Nigel Farage makes me feel distinctly low energy. You know, I've covered quite a lot of ground during this campaign. There was this day when somebody said, "Oh, where have you been?" I said, "You know, I've been Doncaster, I've been in Buckinghamshire, I've been Oxfordshire, I've been in Hull, all within 2 days." And that sounds like quite a lot until I found out Nigel had been in 5 different counties on a single day on Tuesday. He is an inspiration to us all, and we're so, so glad that he's our leader. And we have amazing MPs, Lee Anderson, Richard Tice, James McMurdoch, and of course we have a new Reform MP, Sarah Pochin of Runcorn and Helsby. And mark my words, I've spent a lot of time with Sarah, helping her with the campaign. She is a formidable politician and will leave a real mark on British politics. We're so glad to have her. And then we have mayorships. You know, we've already won Lincolnshire. Dame Andrea Jenkins is going to be one hell of a mayor for Lincolnshire. I mean, her enemies, our enemies and opponents, threw every dirty trick they possibly could at her. She handled it with grace, good humour and dignity, and she responded to those attacks in the best way possible by winning her election with one hell of a majority. And then up in Hull in East Yorkshire, we have Luke Campbell, MBE, a hero who won a gold medal for his country. And campaigning with him, I can tell you, he has such an incredible reputation locally. He's such an authentically humble, brilliant man who is going to be a brilliant mayor for Hull in East Yorkshire. And what I will say is, the talent now that Reform is able to attract is something we can be really proud of. It's going to be really important in delivering for the British people. And now we look forward, and people say, I've done some media today, and I said, well, surely now you must be terrified of all of this scrutiny that Reform is going to get, because now you're in control of some things. You're going to have a track record to scrutinise. Well, our message is, no, we're not afraid. We're excited. Because while, from what I reckon, 80 to 90% of our council candidates who have been elected have no prior experience as elected officials, that is a good thing, not a bad thing. Not a single one of them could be possibly worse than the awful people who have driven this country towards the cliff edge. And we're going to do some really cool things. These are incredible people. I've spent good time with them across the country. I'm really excited about this class of candidates that we have. And we're going to do the things that we promised to do. We're going to throw open the books. We're going to look at the contracts. We're going to audit the waste. We're going to look for the corruption. And where we find it, we'll bring in the fraud squad. We'll leave no stone unturned to find woke BS that is being... Another thing that stood out to me from my media conversations today, and look, by the way, they were all well-meaning, just to be clear, but, the BBC said, well, look, people in this country have had quite enough, surely, of politicians who promised the earth and promised the world. I said, promised the earth? People just want their bins collected once a week at least. They want the tens of millions of pounds that their council is supposedly spending on pothole repair to actually repair some potholes. And they don't want their taxes going up 10 to 30% every year because the chief executive earning £225,000 a year presses the bankruptcy button. Is that really so much to ask? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to be laser focused on that. We're going to fix potholes. We're going to collect your bins. We're going to end the woke waste, building cycle lanes nobody wants. But we're also going to do something else that I don't know many people were quite expecting from Reform UK. But we feel at Reform that the people who elected us have given us a mandate. They want secure borders. They want an end to the uncontrolled population explosion and the importation of enormous numbers of people who do not share our values. And they've had quite enough of setting their alarm in the morning to go and bust a gut at work, to have most of that money taken away from them in order to fund people whose first act upon coming to this country was to break our laws. But we don't yet have a Reform majority in the House of Commons. We've got to wait till the next general election to achieve that. Nigel is not yet our Prime Minister. But here's what we can do, and here's what we commit to do. Reform councils will leverage every ounce of constitutional power that they have to ensure that when companies like Serco turn up and try to induce local landlords with 5-year contracts well above market rent to disperse illegal migrants into reform-controlled areas. We will resist that with every tool at our disposal. And then when we look at the waste, we look at something like potholes, something really simple. I mean, how much money, when you look at all of the freedom of information requests that our team put in, we did put in thousands over the last few months into these councils, hundreds of millions of pounds ostensibly being spent on not fixing potholes. And one of the key reasons for this, the poison pill, is the way procurement is done. Procurement, unfortunately, for government, local and national, is a disaster. Large amounts of it do appear to be pretty corrupt, and at the very least, many multi-million pound contracts are given away with just one bidder. Now, we smell a rat, and we will look for that rat with great abandon once we've got the reins of these councils, which is clearly imminent. But what we're also going to do is have a call, an open call, a request for proposals from innovative new companies to say, look, come in and fix these potholes for us. Even if you're a young company, if you have the latest equipment and you're willing to commit to constituents that you will fix the potholes, you should have every right to win those contracts. And by the way, if the incumbent monopolistic companies who are screwing over constituents say you're not allowed to do that, we run that contract, well then we will ensure our lawyers point to every single breach of contract in that contract and say we are not paying you a dime of our constituents' taxpayers' money. And so now we look forward, not just to the next 12 months, but to the next 4 years and beyond. I cannot overstate the historic achievement that has come in the last 48 hours. Frankly, as someone who was at the count at Runcorn and Helsby, I think it was this morning, losing track of time, but it hasn't quite sunk in myself, the scale and the gravity of this achievement. But we could not have done it without you. We could not have done it without the millions upon millions of reform supporters across the country, without our brilliant branches and grassroots, without our thousands of volunteers who turned out to help us deliver leaflets, evangelize our message at the doorsteps. We couldn't have done it with our incredible reform team. We couldn't have done it without our MPs, nor our amazing leader, Nigel. It is my honour to serve this party as chairman. I couldn't be more excited about the journey we are embarking upon together, nor could I be any more excited about the future of the United Kingdom. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the news gets better and better. Sky News is now reporting the Conservative Party has now lost all 18 councils they were defending. Wow! Isn't revenge sweet? Honestly, this day can't get any better. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce someone I'm so thrilled for today. I messaged her when the result came through. Please will you welcome the Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire, Dame Andrea Jenkins.
Now, if you're wondering what this stick is, my 8-year-old's just given it to me, because I didn't know I was going to be making a speech tonight, and he said, I've got you a good look stick, mummy. Clifford, didn't you? You're going to wave? Yeah. I thought he wants to come up. There we go. He hasn't seen me much the last few months, bless him. Now, He is actually probably one of the youngest members of Reform. When I came over in November, he was pestering me and saying, "Mummy, I want to be a Reform member." So he's got his own card, and he arrived before my card did. Now, in a historic moment, the last few weeks and months that I've been campaigning, I said to Richard Tice over the last few months that it felt a real magic in the air. Now, I'm sure you council candidates and newly elected councillors felt it too. It was just truly amazing. It reminded me of those Brexit years when we was fighting for Brexit, and we felt on the doorstep that people wanted their voice heard. And I think with Reform, well, no doubt with Reform, we are standing up for the silent majority, and they've finally got our voice heard. I'm good at breaking things. This is 2 days without sleep. There we go. Thank you. Now, as I said on my speech earlier, it was one of the dirtiest campaigns I've ever seen. Now, the Conservatives called the police on me, trying to get me arrested. Thankfully, we got a great barrister in the party, and they tried to get me off the ballot. They tried to get me off the electoral so I wouldn't be eligible to stand. There was a hearing last week, and it's been quite really a soul-destroying few weeks, actually. And I thought today, when I was getting ready for the count, I don't know if anyone saw, I wore a bit of an ABBA sparkly outfit. And excuse my French, I thought, you buggers are not going to beat me. I'm going to get dressed up and I'm going to own this. So that's why at 8 o'clock this morning doing media, I was wearing sequins, yeah. Now, look, I'm so proud to be in the Reform family, and the support that I've had from Nigel, from Richard, from Zia has been immense. The emotional support, because at times, I must admit, emotionally, it nearly broke me. You know, can you imagine you're innocent and the police being called to you? And so, can we put our hands together for our amazing leader, for our amazing party chairman, and also for Richard Tice as well. Now, these threats, I think that it's going to get worse for everybody. So I hope that you're all armed up, ready, because we're going to beat them, aren't we? This is just a starting point. Now, the work starts now. Now, Zia and I have been having conversations for months. We're going to have a Lincolnshire Doge, and we are going to ensure that we get rid of diversity officers, because amazingly, Lincolnshire County Council is now Reform controlled. I mean, that's a historic moment. So we've got the mandate, and it's going to actually be a blueprint for common sense, so that we can build from here. And then the important elections, council elections next year, we've got the elections in Wales, we've got the elections in Scotland, and then I truly believe in my heart that our fantastic Nigel will become Prime Minister. Now, I'm not going to talk for much longer, because I know... Oh, you really want me to? Yeah. I could sing, that'd be a lot easier, actually. Yeah. But look, I want to... it's telling me not to sing, my little one, yeah. Do you want your stick back, darling? No, I can keep it, thank you. Look, I want to take my hat off to every one of you. I mean, look our membership now. What is it at the moment, Zia? 200 and what thousand? 228,000. And I've no doubt in the next 12 months we'll overtake the Labour Party as well. Now, what I'm actually proud to see is I think that the two-party system is finally broken. Now, look, I was a Conservative Party for decades, and the historic defeat that they had last year, I think they had this goddamn arrogance, they had the born to rule mentality, and I think this is where the tactics have come from in these campaigns, but we've shown them now, And do you know something? I've never felt happier, and I'm so proud to be part of the Reform family. Now, I've been speaking to Luke earlier. Unfortunately, because he was at 5 o'clock, he's not able to come. He hasn't got a helicopter, unfortunately, that we could whip him here. But he asked me to send his best wishes to you, and I'm meeting him on Wednesday, and we are going to work strongly together, because we are going to ensure that we build these foundations to make sure that you who want to get elected next year and the further years who want to stand as MPs will make it happen for you. We take this responsibility seriously. We're going to deliver for the British public, and we're going to deliver for you, because you know something? We will form a majority government in 29. Now that's it with me, so thank you. And I might get my little one back to bed now, so all the best to you. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I had the great pleasure of going up on the campaign trail up to Runcorn. We did a live broadcast from Runcorn. I've never met such a group of genuine, passionate people, hard-working people. These are tribally Labour voters. The Great British Decline. The fact is, they feel that the Islington bubble from the Labour Party has ignored them for far too long. People were saying to me that they're hurting, they can't afford to put food on the table, they can't afford to pay their bills. But, do you know what? They found in this lady someone that they really resonated with. She worked so hard in the campaign. Runcorn is a very proud industrial town. It's an extraordinary place, actually, and it gives me just enormous pleasure. I texted her earlier today when the result came out to welcome our new Member of Parliament for Runcorn and Helsby, ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Pochin.
Good evening, everyone. Well, we made history last night in Runcorn and Helsby. And if we can do it in Labour, one of Labour's safest seats, 16th safest seat, then we can do it anywhere over this country. It was a 17% swing from Labour to Reform. We've never had a by-election, or I think any election in history, that was so close, 6 votes. A recount. I hope I provided you with some entertainment. Better than Netflix. Obviously we got no sleep, and I think I'm starting to go a little bit hoarse as well. But what a night, what a roller coaster. Nobody actually quite warned me that life with Nigel Farage was going to be such a roller coaster, but there we go. Long may it last. But we really achieved something monumental. And do you know what? Afterwards, you get pushed in front of all the cameras and the press. And they said to me, so many reporters said, well, you only won by 6 votes. Are you going to hold this seat? Was it a protest vote? No, it wasn't a protest vote. No, we didn't win by 6 votes. We won by 14,706 votes. But after a win like that, I'm going to have to say a few thank yous. So bear with me. Of course, the biggest thank you go to Nigel and Zia, because they gave me the opportunity, a life-changing opportunity, to stand in this by-election. And I can honestly say it's been the best 6 weeks of my life. And actually, when I said that to them, they said, well, that is a sign of a really good campaign. And we ran the best campaign, and that's why we won, because we have the best quality people now in this party. And want to particularly say thank you to the campaign team, the operation that we ran in Runcorn. We had an office, a campaign office in Runcorn. One of the best decisions ever. None of the other parties had a campaign office. So for us, everybody was flocking to it. It was just like so exciting. People were coming in and talking to me as though I already was the MP. With their problems, and I was like, whoa, hold on, you've got to get me in first, and then I'll see if I can help you. But the campaign team there were amazing. The digital team, oh my goodness, because I am useless at Twitter and Facebook and all that. Oh my God, my kids say, Mum, you're such a moron. But luckily, there was a whole team of very talented youngsters who sorted all that out and helped me no end with all of that stuff. By the end of it, we were really slick, I think, with those videos and feeding that social media beast. And in fact, one night my son, my eldest son Harry, he texted me and went, Mum, I just sat in bed with his girlfriend, a bit dodgy, but they are getting married, and he said, we're just watching you on TikTok. I was like, TikTok? I don't even know how to get on to TikTok. I wasn't even sure that I had a TikTok account. So anyway, apparently that made me quite cool. So there we go. Thanks to all of them. And of course, thanks to all the volunteers. All of you that came far and wide. People came up the country. People came down the country. Oh, I think you must be a Reform supporter. And people came across the country. But everyone came to Runcorn to help us. And what an achievement that was. So, congratulations to the other winners. There's Andrea and Luke. So we got both sides of the Humber, if my geography's right, covered. And it shows that Reform can win in Labour and Tory-controlled areas. So that's fantastic news. And of course, we now have over 500 new councillors. So how amazing is that? I was myself a borough councillor for 8 years, so I suppose I should offer to help and train, but I think with over 500 that's just not possible. But I'll certainly be here if anybody does want anything specific. Is it 662? Wow, that's incredible, isn't it? Wow. And we've taken control of some councils, and here in Kent we've taken control, haven't we? So well done to you all. Just to finish, I know we're not the main opposition party in terms of the number of MPs we have, although I have just about increased us back up to 5. But we are the main opposition party in terms of the mood of the country. Yeah. That is absolutely not in dispute. So, just remains for me to say, I look forward to working with all of you again over the next 4 years, now that I'm going to be an MP, or I'm an MP. It hasn't sunk in yet. It hasn't sunk in yet. Maybe after some sleep it might. I'll probably wake up and think, oh my God, what have I done? But it will sink in. But I look forward to working with you all. We are a great team. All of us are a great team, and we will take back control of this great country of ours. Thank you.
I love that comment. It hasn't sunk in yet. Our latest Member of Parliament. Give her another round of applause. I think it's fair to say that this journey has been extraordinary. We started off as the Brexit Party, we became Reform UK, we put the party on ice as it was. I have to pay testament to Richard Tice as well, who worked so tirelessly and also supported the party financially. We then defrosted the party, we grew the party, but it was the return of this man that galvanised the whole operation. He is the most extraordinary political operator. When you look at Kemi Badenoch and Keir Starmer, I see boring, dull, technocratic leaders of their party who don't have the drive, the vision, the determination for this country. But this man really does. He is determined to make Britain great again. I have believed in him for a very long time. There is no doubt in my mind that this man will change this country for good. He will become the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nigel Farage.
Kent, and good evening to 57 Kent County Councillors. I can stand here now and say to you and declare with absolute certainty and conviction that we are the winners of the 2025 May the 1st elections right across the length and breadth of England, and we should be very proud. I said in the early hours of the 5th of July last year, as I stood making my acceptance speech in Clacton, that I would professionalise and democratise the party. The leaps and bounds we've made in just over 9 months are totally extraordinary. We managed to field more candidates than even the Labour or Conservative parties in this election. We had full vetting. We've built over 400 branches. And you know, ever since I launched this campaign on the 28th of March in Birmingham, I've literally spent with the exception of Easter, 5 weeks on the road. And I've travelled to every single one of our county contests. I've met over 1,200 of our candidates that stood. And I tell you something, there is an optimism, there is an energy, there is a belief in this party. And the media can go on saying it's a protest party. And you could argue there's a lot to protest about. But we are not a protest party. We are people from all ages, all walks of life, all religions, all backgrounds, but all British. And that's what brings us together and binds us, our belief in the country. And I've never seen such energy and such enthusiasm. Well, yesterday was quite a day for me. I spent 8 hours going around door knocking on behalf of Sarah Pochin, and when 10 o'clock came and the polls closed, little did we know the emotional roller coaster that Sarah would have to go through. But I'm pleased to say that on the recount, we increased our vote share by 50%. So there we are. We went from 4 to 6. But you know what? It may be a small margin, but it is a huge victory, and we're thrilled to have Sarah on our team. Fantastic. Fantastic. We then went on with Dame Andrea, who you've seen on the stage this evening, not just winning the mayoralty of Greater Lincolnshire, but literally walking it, winning it by a country mile, and with it a massive majority on Lincolnshire County Council. And on we went through the night. The former boxer, gold medal winner in the Olympics, has won the Hull and East Yorkshire mayoralty. Amazing wins. We have, as I speak, now total control over 9 councils, including Kent, and a tenth may be on its way. We have won the popular vote by a country mile, and we have gained over 660 new council seats. And the message is very clear. The argument about, would we split the vote? You've heard that one before. What the British people will learn after last night is that if you vote reform, you get... If you vote reform, you get... And that's the point. And actually, in much of the north of England, and in future in this county, if you vote Conservative, you'll let Labour in. Because we have established ourselves in one day in the most seismic moment that English politics has ever seen. We have replaced, no question, we have replaced the Conservative Party. We are now the opposition. We are now the ones that will take on Keir Starmer. And it is in many ways it is the death of two-party politics. We've lived with it since the end of the First World War. But over the course of the last couple of decades, they frankly all become pretty much the same, haven't they? Pretty indistinguishable, starting off with, I think, Call Me Dave, who thought he could mimic Blair, and a Conservative Party out of touch with small business, out of touch with entrepreneurship, who in 14 years of government gave us a tax burden going up to the highest it had been since World War II. And of course, just down the road at Dover, stop the boats. Not a chance of them ever stopping the boats. They never meant it. They used it as a slogan. As they've cynically used the British public over mass migration, legal migration. Frankly, they have no morals, they have no principles, they have no scruples, and they haven't even, in those years, made a proper job of Brexit. But I think that level of betrayal, we began to see the effect of it in the general election last year, but it certainly came true last night. And I genuinely think that this party that has been there for 200 years, governed this country for much of it, what has happened overnight will signal the hollowing out of the Conservative Party, more members leaving, more branches declining, and frankly without councillors, no incentive to go out and campaign. This is the beginning of the end. It is the death of the Conservative Party. And do you know something? They deserve it. They did it to themselves. But having said that, as I say, it's not too rosy for Labour. I mean, what has happened? What has happened in Durham today is the equivalent of Kent, where we have won 63 council seats on Durham County Council, and the Labour majority has been reduced to just 4 seats. So we have been taking votes from Labour up north, votes from the Conservatives down south, votes from everybody across the country. And Labour, in 2021, it was a really low point for Keir Starmer. This set of elections produced horrendous results for Labour. He was on the verge of resigning. Pity he didn't. Should have done, absolutely. So we probably would have got somebody worse, you never know. But Labour are down by nearly 200 seats on that low water mark. And if you watch Sky News, in seat tallies, not a Sky News fan over there? More of a GB News fan? How did I guess? But on Sky News now, the Labour Party are there under others. And it couldn't happen to nicer people, could it? The assault on our family farmers, the attack on small business, the driving out of the country of many of our richest, most entrepreneurial and successful people, the attack on private schools, the attack on virtually everything. And we are a nation that is in economic decline, a nation that is in societal decline, a nation that is in cultural decline. But we know that with the right leadership and the right People's Army, and I'm looking at them, we know that what happened overnight is the first step to us going on and making history by winning the general election of 2029. Now, journalists often ask you very difficult questions, and on the campaign trail, it was said, well, isn't the problem with your party that it's all a bit too blokish? In fact, one of the journalists asked me, did I have a woman problem? Well, I said, I've been having that problem all my life, you know. But the thought was that the party didn't have, at the top, elected female representation. But I want to say this to you. Sarah Pochin was not picked as the candidate to stand at the Runcorn and Helsby by-election because she was a woman. Dame Andrea Jenkins wasn't picked to stand in Greater Lincolnshire because she was a woman. Because we don't believe in dividing everybody up according to race or sex or religion. We believe in meritocracy. Judge people on what they are. Judge people on their conduct. But it just so happens that those two magnificent women have been elected. And before the fun begins, and before... I'm going to pretend not to have heard that one. Before the dancing begins, before the singing begins, I want the enduring final image of this massively successful campaign, of me to be on this stage with Sarah, with Andrea, and that'll be our sign-off. Our thanks to all of you for what you've achieved, and our big shot and image to the country. This is the new face of Reform UK.